Welcome to Men, Menopause, and Miracles, where we have honest conversations about the beautiful, messy, and miraculous journey of midlife. This is a place where we navigate life's unexpected twists with courage, rediscover who we're becoming, and remind ourselves that even in seasons of uncertainty, there's always room for hope, healing, and miracles. I'm Suzanne, your host and your midlife wingwoman, and today we're talking about finding the courage to keep moving when life keeps changing. Maybe you're facing a career transition, the end of a relationship, an empty nest, financial uncertainty, or simply wondering what's coming next. Heck, in midlife, it could be all those things that are going on at the same time. And if you've ever found yourself asking, how do I keep choosing change when I've already experienced enough loss or uncertainty to make me want to stay exactly where I am? Then this episode is for you. And just a friendly reminder, if you're needing a podcast that's a little less serious, last week's episode, The Miracle of Play, challenged you to create your own summer playlist. That's two separate words, play and list. I invited you to come up with 10 playful things to do before Labor Day. They can be silly, simple, spontaneous, or completely free. And if you haven't listened to episode 58 yet, go back and give yourself permission to play. I promise it will be worth it. So, this is episode 59, The Courage to Keep Moving When Things Are Changing. And they are in midlife. Today's episode hits home personally. As much as I want to focus on serving a community of incredible midlife women, I've personally been walking through one of the biggest seasons of change in my own life. It has felt at times like the ground beneath me isn't there while I'm trying to build a brand new foundation almost as quickly as the old one disappeared. And over the last couple of years, I've experienced layoffs, rejection while searching for opportunities, the uncertainty of building a business, and having conversations with myself that I never imagined I'd be having until recently, or that I've been avoiding, if I'm honest. Do I get a roommate? Do I rent my home? Do I move somewhere else? This is when I typically scroll on Zillow. Ha ha ha. So, any Zillow fans out there? Am I the only one? Zillow's a little escape for me when I want to think of being somewhere else. So, these aren't just financial questions per se, they're also emotional questions because every decision feels like it carries the possibility of another loss. And I actually love where I live in sunny SoCal. I know all of my neighbors. The weather is fantastic. I have a good circle of friends. I walk my dog in the community, and my extended family are close by. But the bigger question is to ask, where is fear hiding in your life? And I realized this weekend that mine wasn't showing up as panic. It was hiding behind productivity, behind making lists, behind building my business, behind doing, until something happened that completely caught me off guard and scratched the surface of what I had been avoiding. And it was something small. It wasn't anything really large. It was good news about a friend, but it reminded me how vulnerable I am amid all this change. So I was sitting in my car after leaving the store. I didn't drive away. I just sat there for several minutes and I paused and I reached out to a trusted friend or two and allowed myself to be real, to feel and to cry. And I rarely cry, not because I don't have emotions, but because I rarely give myself permission to. Who has the time? I've got things to do. But you know what? It felt so good to stop pretending, or let's just say avoiding, that I was okay or fine. So, to let those buried emotions finally come to the surface, however messy, however uncomfortable. This is life. This is real life. And outside of our own lives, the world is asking a lot from us too. And there's a lot of change going on in the greater world right now. So being kind to ourselves isn't a luxury. It's really essential. So let me ask you the question again. How do you keep choosing change when you've already experienced enough loss, uncertainty, or disappointment that makes you want to stay exactly where you are? I think that's one of the biggest questions facing women in midlife because by now we've lived enough life to know that nothing is guaranteed. At 30, change felt really exciting. And at 50, change can feel expensive emotionally, financially, mentally. We've learned that jobs do disappear, relationships change, parents age, our children become independent, our bodies change. Even the identity we've built over decades begins asking us to redefine who we are. And yet, isn't this also the season where we finally have permission to become more ourselves? Midlife offers us something incredible: freedom. Freedom to choose differently, freedom to reinvent ourselves, freedom to stop living everyone else's expectations. But here's the question: are we willing to give ourselves that freedom? To taste it, to trust it, to dance in it, to hold it? I've been seeing so many women sharing online that, for example, career changes, that they've been laid off in midlife. And, maybe you're getting a different set of feeds. I don't know. I'm not seeing ones where women are talking about divorce or other things. But so job, career change, life change, empty nesting. And they're talking about the uncomfortability and talking about reinventing themselves, starting businesses, going back to school, building something entirely new. But with that, nobody really talks about the middle. And that's the place where you're no longer who you were, but you're not yet quite who you're becoming. And that's where so many of us are living, I feel. And maybe that's exactly where courage lives too. So as I was preparing this episode, I realized again about myself that I don't stop to grieve. I know, again, my role, I feel, as to be strong, to coach, to encourage, to help others process what they're going through. And so I just keep going. And I think whether you're a coach, a podcast host, or not, as a woman, I think many can relate. It's called being productive. I call it being resilient. But maybe sometimes it's just me trying to outrun change, outrun disappointment, outrun grief, outrun uncertainty. And maybe you've done that too. But one of the gifts of midlife, and yes, I believe it's a gift, is that it eventually slows us down enough to pay attention, to simplify, to breathe, to take care of ourselves with the same compassion we've spent years giving everyone else. And eventually life asks for our attention, not to punish us, but to heal us. And so let me ask you, what losses have you quietly carried because life never gave you, or you haven't given yourself, permission to stop? And not just the big losses, not the big ones like death, divorce, or diagnosis, those go without saying, but also the quieter losses, the loss of certainty, the loss of youth, the loss of confidence, the loss of a career, the loss of the life you thought you'd have, the loss of a version of yourself. Those losses deserve acknowledgement, even if no one else sees them. And maybe especially then. So before you rush into becoming this next version of yourself, or at least that's what I feel like I'm trying to do, aiming to do, and help others, would you be willing to thank the version that's carried you this far? Because we don't usually celebrate the woman we're leaving behind. We can criticize or judge her, tell her she should have known better, she should have done better. But instead, what if today you simply thanked her? Thank you for surviving. Thank you for protecting yourself. Thank you for carrying yourself this far. Heck, throw yourself a party of some sorts because you deserve it. Thank yourself for all the changes you've made it through up until this point. I'm sure there's a book or a memoir in there, and they have been a lot. But now know that you'll be okay with just a few more. So I'm going to do a little meditation. It's been a while since I've done one. So if you're driving, a little midlife meditation. If you're driving, simply listen. If you're somewhere quiet, close your eyes if that feels comfortable. And take one slow breath in and let it go. And again, one slow breath in and let it go. Now ask yourself this question: what have I lost that I've never allowed myself to acknowledge? Don't force an answer, just notice what comes up. Maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's certainty, maybe it's your younger body, maybe it's a dream, maybe it's the woman you thought you'd be by now. Just notice. No fixing, no judging, just witnessing. Now place one hand over your heart and one over your belly and silently finish this sentence. It makes sense. This has been hard because, and let yourself answer honestly. It makes sense that this has been hard because, and then what would I like to release today? Maybe it's guilt, maybe it's shame, maybe it's the pressure to have everything figured out. That's mine. Ding, ding, ding. Maybe imagine placing it all down beside you, not because it disappears forever, but because you don't have to carry it every minute of every day. Amen to that. So ask this one final question: who am I becoming because I've had the courage to keep going? I love that. Who am I becoming because you've had the courage to keep going? Again, don't look for perfection or evidence, but more compassion, more discerning, more faithful, more grounded, more honest, more yourself. And take one more breath in and let it go. And when you're ready, open your eyes if they were closed. Maybe courage isn't found in making one big, fearless leap. Maybe courage looks like pausing long enough to honor what you survived. And I will also note what you're feeling. Thanking the woman who got you here, grieving what needed to end, and then taking one small step towards what's next. Because healing isn't what happens after you've changed. Healing is part of how you find the courage to change. I have to say that one again. Healing is part of how you find the courage to change. And perhaps the miracle isn't finally reaching that next chapter or discovering that you don't have to race past your pain to keep moving forward. Yes, those are all miracles, but you can grieve and grow. You can honor what was and still choose what's next. Those things aren't opposites, they're partners. And I hope you can feel that today. Where do you realize that you've been carrying those losses that you may never have given yourself permission to name? And that's where real courage begins. So if something knocks you off your center, you feel something strikes a chord, maybe remember the pause and to allow yourself to have a moment. And before you rush into your day, wherever you are, I want to leave you with the one and final question. Again, what have you survived that you've never stopped to honor? Because courage isn't pretending it didn't hurt. Courage begins the moment you acknowledge that it did and you choose to keep moving forward anyway. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to like, follow, or subscribe. And if you have any questions or stories to share, you can always reach me at yourmidlifewingwoman@gmail.com. If you know another woman who could use a reminder to choose courage one step at a time, please share this episode with her. Until next time, remember, you're stronger than you think, wiser than you know, and you never have to navigate midlife alone. I'm Suzanne, your midlife wingwoman, and this has been Men, Menopause, and Miracles. Be well and bye for now.